What if I told you that the biggest regret you'll have at the end of your life has nothing to do with your career or money or the risks you didn't take? Today, we're going to dive into a lesson that took one woman over 70 years to finally understand, and honestly, it changes everything. When we think about regret, our minds usually jump to the big, dramatic stuff, right? Choosing the wrong major, not taking that huge job offer, missing out on some massive opportunity. But what if the real regret, the one that actually sticks with people at the end of it all, is something much quieter? What if it's the simple, painful realization that you just weren't really there for your own life? So, this whole idea comes from a pretty incredible source, a woman named Dorothy who lived to be 103 years old. And when you've seen an entire century go by, you learn a thing or two. She wanted to share a truth that she said, and I quote, "Nobody will ever tell you." To really get what she's talking about, we have to go back and understand her story. It all kicked off with a sudden tragedy and a promise that she made to herself in a moment of shocking, painful clarity. Here's the timeline. It's 1955. Dorothy is just 33 years old, and her husband, Robert, dies suddenly. That very night, with her whole world turned upside down, she makes this powerful promise to herself. But, well, life goes on. A few years later, she remarries, and the old rhythms of routine start to creep back in. And it took her another 70 years, all the way to age 103, to finally grasp the true lesson of that promise she made so long ago. And what was that promise? It was this: never waste another day. Live intentionally, love openly, and never, ever postpone joy again. In that moment of grief, she saw things with perfect clarity. But here's the thing, and this is the part of the story that's so relatable. Even with this profound, life-altering insight, life itself has this gravitational pull. The daily routines, the responsibilities, the endless to-do lists, they just create this slow, almost invisible drift that pulls us right back into living on autopilot. So, what did she learn in those 7 decades that followed? This is where her wisdom really starts to take shape, and it boils down to 4 huge lessons about life, time, and where we put our attention. Okay, lesson number 1 is a bit of a tough pill to swallow. We're basically wired to forget. When something big and scary happens, a crisis, a death, we get this flash of clarity. We remember life is short. But our brains, for our own sanity, I guess, can't stay in that high alert state. So we drift. We slip right back into this comfy illusion that we have forever. And you can hear this forgetting in the way we talk all the time. It's the grand illusion of later. It's that voice in your head that says, "Oh, I'll call them next week," or "I'll finally travel when I retire," or "I'll get to that passion project later." What Dorothy learned is that later is just a fantasy. It's a place we send our best intentions to let them fade away. This brings us straight to her second lesson. And this one completely flips the script on what we think we should be worried about. It turns out the biggest regret isn't about the big things we mess up. See, we're taught to see our lives as a series of big events, right? Graduations, new jobs, weddings, big achievements. We chase them, we post about them, we celebrate them. But Dorothy's insight from living 103 years is that these milestones, they aren't what life is actually made of. Instead, life is made of this. It's made of ordinary Tuesdays. The real regrets pile up in these tiny, seemingly meaningless moments. The conversation you rushed through, the walk you put off, the dinner you spent scrolling on your phone, the hug you cut a little too short. Life isn't the highlight reel. It's all the everyday moments in between. So that leads us right to lesson 3. If life is really built from all these small, ordinary moments, then what's the most valuable thing we have? It's not our money. It's not gifts. It's our attention, our full, undivided presence. That, she said, is the real currency of a life well lived. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most hopeful lesson of all. Okay, so we know we're wired to forget. We know we're going to get distracted. So what are we supposed to do? Well, the answer isn't to be perfect. Dorothy's own words just nail it. She admitted the promise you're making, you're going to break it over and over again. Because we're human. The real job, she said, isn't to never drift off. The real skill is to just notice when you've drifted and then gently come back. Remember and return. Over and over again.
All right, so that's the wisdom. But how do we actually put this into practice in our crazy, busy lives? Well, it breaks down into three pretty simple things we can do. It really just comes down to this. 1. Reduce unnecessary distractions. Be ruthless about it. 2. Start treating ordinary moments like they're the main event, because they are. And 3. Call the people you love. Don't wait for a special occasion. Today is the occasion. And let's just hammer home that first point for a second. Your phone, my phone, these things will literally steal thousands of hours of our one and only life if we let them. Protecting your attention isn't some small self-help trick. It's the main battleground for reclaiming your life.
Now, to really let this all sink in, I want to show you the final math of Dorothy's life. This is the final tally, and it's pretty sobering.
By the time she passed away, Dorothy had been alive for 37,595 days. Just try to wrap your head around that number. It's a vast amount of time.
And out of those 37,000 days, how many did she feel she was actually truly 100% present for? She said she could count them on 2 hands. Less than 10. Out of almost 38,000, that is the reality that she was trying to warn us about.
So in the end, her deepest regret had nothing to do with her bank account or her resume. It was the quiet, haunting feeling that she had sleepwalked through huge chunks of her own beautiful, long life. And her final plea to all of us, with whatever energy she had left, was a simple promise. I promise you, later never comes. That perfect time you're waiting for to start living, it's not coming.
Which really just leaves us with one unavoidable question to ask ourselves. Right now, are you present for your life? Or are you operating on the assumption that you'll get around to actually living it later? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.